She knew something was wrong when she arrived at the house and found her friend's grown son standing naked and silent in the living room. When she discovered her friend was dead, she thought someone dangerous must be lurking in the house. But sometimes the biggest danger is untreated mental illness. This is the story of Tyler Dazey, the man who killed his mom because he says she was practicing witchcraft on him. Hi friends, I'm Katie, and this is Katie Does Crime. Thank you for joining me for the first time if you're new here. I'm a Midwesterner who now lives in New York City, putting my writing degree to use by researching true crime cases that interest me, and hopefully you. And hello to the usual rapscallions and reprobates. Please consider subscribing or joining me on Patreon if you'd like to hear more true crime stories. I try to be like a grown-up who's not sucked in by clickbait headlines, I like my news fact-based and boring. But I'll admit that WKRC News got me with son laughs in court after allegedly murdering his mother for practicing witchcraft. I'm sorry, but I can't resist clicking when you put witchcraft in quotes. Our case began at 8:50 a.m. on January 18th, 2024 in Dubuque, Iowa, when the best friend of 46-year-old Jennifer Ann Dazey called the police. She had come to visit Jennifer at her home on Avoca Street for coffee. She let herself in through the unlocked door, but she immediately knew something was off when Jennifer's dog didn't seem to notice her, didn't get up to greet her like usual. And Jennifer's son was standing naked in the living room, not saying a word. She quickly went back outside to give him a second to go to his bedroom, and then she entered the house again and found Jennifer dead in her own bed, covered in blood. Some of her fingers had been cut off. She had numerous cuts on her face, neck, and head. And as you may have guessed, her dog was dead under a blanket on the living room couch. Someone or something had given poor Echo a significant head injury. Thinking there was a violent stranger in the house, the friend locked herself in Jennifer's bedroom while she called 911. Police soon arrested Jennifer's 28-year-old son, Tyler James Dazey. He lived with his mom and was lying naked in his room, sleeping on the floor when the authorities arrived. He said he had just taken a shower before he went to sleep, but he wasn't sure why, because he had already showered late the night before after working out. This isn't funny, but I liked that the newspaper said he wasn't overly responsive when the cops took him in. But then articles go on to say that he called his mom a whore and said she'd been practicing witchcraft at him for years. Like, he doesn't say much, but when he does talk, it's to say his whore mom was lying around doing her black magic spells on him. Dazey told the police he owned a hatchet, which he kept in a toolbox in his bedroom. A search warrant revealed a tactical tomahawk on a shelf in the bathroom and its sheath on the dining room table. When police asked him about the injuries to his mom, he cited his Miranda rights and stopped talking. He was charged with first-degree murder and animal abuse causing death. His bond was set at $2 million, cash only. He laughed during his bond hearing and told the Iowa District Associate Judge, "Always a pleasure." On a GoFundMe page for her other children, a family member said, "On January 18th, we said goodbye to our beautiful Jenny and her loyal companion, Echo. If you knew Jenny, you knew she was a devoted mom, daughter, sister, aunt, and friend, shining a light in every room she entered. Her infectious laughter, passion for exploring the world, and her lack of an inside voice were her trademarks." As we grapple with this loss, our focus is on supporting Jenny's children, Nick and Kylie. The grief feels unbearable, and we're reaching out for your help to ease the burden they now carry. Jenny's spirit, marked by joy and adventure, lives on in them, and we want to ensure they have the support they need. Jennifer's family called her a unique, carefree spirit who loved everyone but didn't care what anyone thought of her. She worked as a manager at a disaster services company, which I think goes along with the idea of loving everyone and wanting to help people. She was born on August 24th, 1977 in Hawaii, but spent most of her life in Dubuque, Iowa, despite hating snow. Her family says she had legendary hugs, was a gifted photographer, and considered her 3 kids her greatest accomplishment. She had survived brain tumors and was just recovering from her latest surgery, but it was sadly one of those 3 children, not the cancer, that eventually ended her life. Jennifer wanted her ashes scattered in the ocean, and her family hopes to spread her remains in all 5 of them. Shortly after Jennifer's death, KCRG News in Dubuque wrote about people with mental illness in the prison system and how some sheriffs were demanding change. The article says, while observing the 161 men and women living at the Dubuque County Jail, a familiar face to the staff returned, Tyler Dazey. The jail staff's frustration was palpable, that Dazey couldn't get the help he needed before, and now he was back on first-degree murder charges. This was a man who had said in the past that he was Jesus Christ and the devil, a man family members had tried to get restraining orders against. The jail staff knew he was really more of a patient, not an inmate, but the state didn't really have another place for him to go. The county captain of the jail said, "It's just one of those people that we know, and when's the next time gonna be, and what's it gonna be?" This was certainly the worst charge Dazey had ever been brought in on, though. In early February 2024, Dazey's attorney said he intended to plead not guilty by reason of insanity or mental deficiency, so a judge granted a competency evaluation to see if Dazey was fit to stand trial. Later that month, Dazey asked the judge to get rid of his court-appointed public defenders because he didn't want to plead insanity and his counsel had proven too inadequate. At this point, he had already had that psychiatric evaluation, but the results weren't available yet. His lawyers did say, however, that they expected him to be found competent. Dazey's sister began advocating for him on TikTok and spoke to KCRG News about how, yes, he had killed their mom, but it wasn't exactly his fault. She said he would joke about their mom practicing witchcraft, like it was an offhanded thing he'd say just to be funny, but that he might have actually come to believe it in a manic state. She said she didn't want him to be put in prison because it wasn't him who committed the horrible crime against Jennifer. It was his mental illness.
That was a joke when he was saying. When he was saying it was a joke. He would always, yeah, she's in there playing witchcraft. Like, yeah, it was a joke. Now that he's manic, he believes it. All of a sudden, he would just start talking a little different, and then you knew, and it was, okay, he's not doing the best. You can tell in his tone. You could see it in his eyes. He's not talking about maybe the topic's a little off. You're like, okay, are you doing okay? Yeah. It was, you could definitely see signs. Like, well, they keep building jails and they're so quick to put someone in jail, but as soon as someone asks for help, they just turn them away instantly. I don't want him to be put away behind bars because he's not going to get help. Maybe a mental institution would be the best thing for him.
On February 29th, Dazey was ruled not competent to stand trial. The doctor who conducted his evaluation said he seemed to understand the legal process, but wouldn't be able to assist in his own defense because he couldn't act in his own self-interest. Dazey said, "That's sir," and referred to his lawyer as a dumbass. He had been laughing during parts of the hearing, but when the judge ordered him to be moved to a psychiatric hospital, he no longer thought it was funny.
But his smile quickly faded once the judge ordered him to be transported to a psychiatric hospital and prison in Coralville.
I'd like to say this is not one flew over the cuckoo's nest, and I will not be going to a mental institution, and I will not be taking drugs. I am who I am, and I am who I choose to be, not what you say I am. Do you understand, sirs and ma'ams?
At this Coralville institution, Dazey would have another evaluation and would need to stay there if he was found incompetent. In May 2024, the results of that second evaluation were presented in court, and it stated that Dazey was competent to stand trial. So one had said he was competent and one had said he wasn't. The judge reviewed the conflicting reports and denied the motion from Dazey's attorneys to rule him unfit for trial. He also denied a motion to change venues to a different county, and as far as I know, the whole issue of switching public defenders was just dropped. Dazey's court date was set for July. Testimony began on July 17, 2024, but Dazey wasn't there to hear it. He had written a note to the judge saying he wouldn't appear in court and wouldn't participate in the trial, and I have to read you this note. It says, "To whom it may concern, I, Tyler James Dazey, a descendant of the Roths, a Freemason, and a Hebrew Nazarite, am of God, before as well as after, to be subject to slavery through usury of the law, be it constitution nor amendment. I will not participate. I seek honor, to become of worth. I seek God. My mother would be ashamed otherwise, as is of my ancestors, to seek God in death, to become that of life." So that's obviously nonsense. And to me, it echoes what the first competency evaluation said about him not being able to assist in his defense. But apparently the judge accepted this because Dazey was allowed to be absent for his own trial. On the stand, the friend who found Jennifer Dazey's body said that there was so much blood that she couldn't tell if she was in shock or if her brain was playing tricks on her. The defense asked her if she thought Tyler Dazey would ever hit his mom, and she said only if he was pushed to his limits. The defense also tried to blame the murder on Dazey's sister, who of course had been an outspoken advocate for him and his need for mental health treatment. So that kind of sucks for her, but, the defense has to do whatever they can. They said that the sister's whereabouts were unknown at the time of the murder, and that she seems too calm in police body cam footage for someone finding out that her mom is dead. She laughs and seems to be flirting in her police interview, which some people see as her being heartless. But a Dubuque police lieutenant said, men try to be a little tougher, hold tears back, where sometimes women can be more emotional. But again, in my 9 years of being a police officer, I've just responded to quite a few death calls. It's really just across the board on how people will react to them. I always say this, but I try not to ever judge people for how they respond in a crisis. Sometimes people just laugh nervously or stay calm out of shock, and I don't think it says anything about their guilt. The prosecution said the blood on the hatchet belonged to Jennifer, and the palm print on the handle belonged to her son, and that was all the proof the jury should need. The medical examiner who performed the autopsy said Jennifer died from 17 sharp blows to the head and body, and that the chopping injuries to her brain caused the most damage. She said the wounds were consistent with the blade of Tyler Dazey's hatchet. A police investigator said that during his questioning, he asked Dazey about his relationship with his mom, and Dazey said it's fine except for when she's acting sneaky like a witch, and went on to talk about his mom's coven. And this is what Dazey said about what his mom would think of him.
Why would I care what a whore thinks? You sit around and drink yourself stupid, like animals, and ruin your children's lives. Why would I care what a person like that thinks?
When the police officer told Dazey he was being arrested for his mom's murder, Dazey said, "It's hard to argue witchcraft in court, isn't it?" Yes, Tyler, yes it is. On July 19th, 2024, Tyler Dazey was found guilty of first-degree murder and guilty of animal abuse. The jury only took 2 hours to decide. He'll be sentenced later, but the mandatory sentence for first-degree murder is life in prison. In his closing statement, the prosecutor said this.
And I'll just simply state that 17 blows with this hatchet to someone's face, head, and neck is evil. And if it's not evil, evil doesn't exist. This was also a deliberated act, not in the heat of passion. You might be able to stretch it and say it was a heat of passion with one blow, but there were 17 of them. That's not the heat of passion. The time Mr. Dazey decided to pick up that hatchet and unsheath it and then go to Jennifer's room was when he decided to do what he was going to do. There's no limit required. There was malice aforethought before each blow, 17 times. He had fixed purpose and intent 17 times. He thought about this before he even took that hatchet out of the toolbox. That's premeditation. That's intent. He knew exactly what he was going to do.
But my feeling is that there's a difference between being evil and having mental illness. Dazey had been committed to psychiatric units over the years, both voluntarily and involuntarily. The time he was in jail prior to killing his mom, he begged the staff for help, but there was nothing more they could do for him. He was on disability due to his schizophrenia, which is probably one of the reasons he was even living with his mom in the first place. I'm honestly shocked that he was found competent to stand trial the one time that he was, and I don't know why he or his lawyers ever thought he had a shot at being found not guilty. Jennifer's daughter called her a ball of happiness, and I'm sad that she was yet another victim of our inability to deal with mental health issues in this country. This was a guy who was asking for help in a prison system that wanted to help him, but didn't have the resources to.
My brother had episodes. He was prescribed with medication for multiple personality disorder, schizophrenia, and bipolar disorder. Also had sleeping pills. When you put someone on drugs that are so strong and you're not paying attention if they're working or not, that would create a monster. That is what creates him to be a danger to society, because they're not paying attention to the problem. When it comes to schizophrenia, there is not a drug that is prescribed to someone specifically with schizophrenia. It is a cocktail of drugs that they have to keep checking up on.
So I'm sad for Tyler, and I'm sad for his mom, Jennifer, and of course, I'm sad for Echo the dog. As always, please let me know what you think about this case in the comments. Thank you for tuning in today. I'm just a true crime fan like you are, and I really appreciate you taking a chance on me. Please like and subscribe to my channel if you liked spending this time together. I would be so appreciative. Until next time, I'm Katie, and this has been Katie Does Crime.